Come and study with Tanzania Institute for Education.
Hello students, welcome to the Civics class. I'm Mwalimu Maxon Wilson Binomtons and I'll be taking you through the topic known as democracy. In this topic, we are going to discuss about the definition and the concept of democracy, but also we look at the origin of the term democracy. We are also going to discuss about the defining characteristics or features of democracy, and at the end, we'll talk about the types of democracy. To begin, we need to ask ourselves the question, where did the concept of democracy originate from? The term democracy is believed to have originated from ancient Greece in the city-state known as Athens. It is due to this reason that sometimes democracy is referred to as Athenian democracy. In Greece, the term democracy is said to have originated from two Greek words, which are demos, which means people, and kratos, which means power. Therefore, the term democracy in Greece was used to mean the rule by people. The rule by people. In Greece, the term democracy was used to refer to a situation whereby the ability or the power to make a decision is vested in the hands of the people. But in the attempt to define democracy, various scholars tried to give different definitions of the concept of democracy. One among the famous definitions of democracy was given by the 19th President of the United States of America, who was known as Abraham Lincoln. In his definition, Abraham Lincoln defined democracy as a system of government, defined democracy as the government of the people, for the people, and by the people. So Abraham Lincoln defined democracy as the government of the people, for the people, and government by the people. With these three concepts, Abraham Lincoln had different or several meanings. Saying the government of the people, Abraham Lincoln was referring to the situation whereby people in a particular nation are sovereign and the government derives all its power and authority from the hands of the people. But talking of the concept for the people, Abraham Lincoln was referring to the situation whereby the government should always be there to serve the interest of the people. And by the people, Abraham Lincoln was meaning that a democratic state or democracy is a situation whereby the government in power is either directly or indirectly chosen by the people so that they can govern on their behalf. So generally speaking, democracy can be defined as a situation or can be defined as a governing system whereby the power to make a decision is vested in the hands of the citizens. That is the meaning of democracy. That democracy can be understood as a governing system whereby the ability or the power to make a decision of what should be practiced or what should not be practiced in a certain country depends on the views or decision made by the majority. That is democracy. Next, after looking at the definition of the concept of democracy, we need to look at the defining characteristics of democracy. Defining characteristics of democracy. These are also known as features, indicators, or pillars of democracy sometimes. So we look at the principles of democracy. Principles of democracy. When we talk about the principles of democracy, we are talking of the elements or the indicators which, when available in a particular country, will help us to say whether a certain country is democratic or is not democratic. So the principles of democracy or the indicators of democracy, these are elements whose presence in a particular nation determines whether a nation is democratic or not democratic. To begin, elements of democracy include, but not limited to, the following. One is the level of community participation, community involvement. One among the indicators of democracy in a particular nation is the level or the extent to which citizens are involved in making decisions pertaining different social, political, or economic activities that have to be undertaken in a certain country. It is believed that in a democratic state, citizens will always have to assume a full involvement in discussing and making decisions of which political or social economic activities that should be taken and how it should be practiced in a country. In this case, a democratic state assumes the involvement of citizens. In a state where citizens are not involved in making decisions over various activities, it means that democracy does not exist. So the first indicator or the first principle of democracy is the level of community involvement. Citizens can be involved in making decisions or suggesting of the economic or social political activities, can be involved in paying tax, also can be involved in voting or choosing leaders who are to govern in a certain period of time. Another principle of democracy is multipartyism. 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 Multipartyism is a political system whereby in a certain country there exists more than one political party. And the existence of more than one political party in a country reflects the existence of democracy. It is believed that multi-party political system is a very famous and strong indicator of democracy because it provides a wide chance for citizens to make choice of the leaders they want, especially during the election. In Tanzania, the history of multipartyism goes back to the colonial period when the four grandfathers were struggling for independence. During that time, in Tanganyika, for example, there were more than one political parties which were struggling for independence. Just to mention the Tanganyika African National Union, TANU, which was led by Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, the African National Congress, ANC, which was led by Zuberi Mutemvu, All Muslim National Union of Tanganyika, AMNAT, which was led by Suleiman Takadil, and the United Tanganyika Party, which was led by Ivan Baydon. In Zanzibar, also there were various political parties, such as the Afro-Shirazi Party, which was led by Abeid Amani Karume, Zanzibar Nationalistic Party, the Zanzibar Pemba People's Party, ZPPP, and the Umma Party, which was led by Abdurrahman Mohamed Babu. So, these political parties were existing in different parts of the Union of Tanganyika and Zanzibar, and they were struggling to attract people so that they can exercise their political freedom. These political parties later in 1965 were banned, and TANU and ASP remained as the only political parties in Tanzania, with the TANU operating in Tanzania mainland and ASP the only political party operating in Zanzibar. Later in 1977, on 5th February, these two political parties, TANU and ASP, were merged together to form Chama cha Mapinduzi, which is the ruling party today. So between 1965 to 1992, Tanganyika or Tanzania was a single party system. But later on 1st July 1992, multi-party political system was again introduced in Tanzania. So until now, as we speak, in Tanzania, we have almost 22 political parties which are registered and carrying out their political activities in Tanzania. So this is to say that the existence of more than one political party in which people are free to join any political party of their choice indicates the existence of or the presence of democracy. Another indicator or principle of democracy is rule of law. Rule of law. The rule of law is a principle which requires that all people within a country are equal before the law. The rule of law states that in a country, all people should be equal, should be treated fairly, equally, and consistently, regardless of their social, political, and economic status. So in a democratic state, all people, whether leaders or the common citizens, should be treated equally, irrespective of their social, political, and economic position. So the presence of rule of law, a situation whereby the leaders in power exercises their power by considering the rule of law, indicates the presence of democracy in a certain country. A country where the government do not consider the rule of law is said to have no democracy. Another indicator of democracy in a country is the presence of free, fair, and regular election. Regular election. In a democratic state, always there should be regular election in which leaders are elected to serve for a certain defined period of time, and after that period of time, another election has to be called for citizens to involve in election. And that election should be conducted in a free and fair environment whereby all political parties are allowed to practice their activities without any limitation. So in a democratic state, it is expected that there will always be a free, fair, and irregular election. In Tanzania, for example, election is always conducted after every 5 years. And this election involves many political parties which presents candidates in different levels of government, be it from the level of the village government up to the national level, where we elect the president. Another indicator of democracy is equality. Equality is a situation whereby all people within a country are treated equally. All people within a country are treated equally, as we said, without considering the social, political of the status of that person. When it happens that a leader, someone in power, for instance, abuses a certain law, and a common citizens does the same, all people have to be treated in equal environment without looking at the state whereby this person is a leader and this one is not. So equality is a system whereby all citizens in a country enjoy the equal opportunity before the law. But also another, of course, for today, the last defining characteristic, but not the least, is freedom of expression. Freedom of expression. Or in other way, we can say observation of human rights. That in a country where democracy exists, readers have to always observe human rights. Human rights are of different categories. It can be political, social, and economic rights. So in a democratic state, it is believed that always the government will observe the rights of the people. Always people will be assured of the right to live, assured of the right to own properties, and so many other rights. So in a democratic state, it is evident that where human rights are observed, where the human rights are respected, one can tell that in that country there is democracy. But the vice versa is also true. In this case, where there is no observation of human rights, one can also say that in that country there is no human rights. There is no democracy. So these are the defining characteristics of democracy, and their presence in a certain country will help someone to say whether that country is or is not democratic. And from the characteristics of democracy, let's look at the types of democracy. Types of democracy. Types of democracy. Democracy, there are two basic types of democracy. Basic types of democracy. Democracy has two basic types. And these types are: 1, direct democracy, and the second is indirect democracy. So we are saying democracy can be categorized into two major types. These are direct democracy and indirect democracy. One can ask himself, what is direct democracy? Direct democracy, as the name itself suggests, it is a type of democracy whereby citizens directly participate in making decisions without involving representatives. It is a system of a type of democracy whereby citizens directly make decisions concerning various social, political, and economic activities that are to be conducted within that particular country. This system is also, this type of democracy is also called participatory democracy. Direct democracy is also known as participatory democracy. So direct democracy is called direct. It is called direct democracy simply because citizens directly, without involving the representative, they participate in making decisions. And that is why it is called participatory, because they directly take part in making a decision of a certain matter that is to be carried out in a certain country. And this type of democracy, direct democracy, is only suitable in areas with a very small population. In Tanzania, for example, direct democracy can be seen at the lowest local government levels, let's say at the village level, whereby all adult members of the village are invited to participate in the village assembly, where they are supposed to decide or to discuss on various economic or social activities to be taken in that village. But also at school, direct democracy can be practiced through the school baraza, whereby all students in that particular school are invited to attend in the school baraza and air out their views concerning various activities or concerning the day-to-day activities that are conducted in the school. But at the national level, the only country in the world which is still practicing direct democracy at national level is Switzerland. In the world, Switzerland is the only country that is still practicing direct democracy. So the direct democracy is a system of democracy whereby people participate in making decisions without involving the representatives. And in Tanzania, you can see it, you can find it at the local government level, or even sometime at the family level, whereby in the family, sometime all members of the family can participate in making decisions concerning the family activities, but also at school. It can also be conducted. Another type of democracy is indirect democracy. Indirect democracy. This type of democracy is the opposite of direct democracy, and it is also called the representative democracy. It is a system of a type of democracy whereby people make their decision through the elected or chosen representatives. This type of democracy, because of operating through the chosen or elected representatives, it is called representative democracy. In Tanzania, indirect democracy can be seen at various levels of government, from the local government level, from the lowest government level to the national level, whereby when we elect the village council, the 25 members of the village council at the village level, when we elect the councillors at the ward level, when we elect the members of parliament at the constituency level, or when we elect the president, all of these, they go to work on behalf of the citizens. So the type of democracy which works through representative is known as representative or indirect democracy. This type of democracy is, unlike direct democracy, is applicable in areas with a very big population in such a way that it becomes very hard for all voices of the citizens to be heard and attended to when you decide to invite them in a meeting. So due to the fact that the number of population keeps on increasing, indirect democracy becomes the solution in such a way that leaders or few people are elected to go and represent other majority citizens in making the decision in various decision-making organs. In Tanzania, for instance, I think you will have seen the Parliament of the United Republic of Tanzania, whereby every one person from each constituency is elected to represent the members of that constituency so that they can go and participate in debating on national issues in the Parliament. That is a type, or that is an indicator of representative democracy. This type of democracy is widely now and commonly practiced in various countries, starting from the lowest to the highest level of government. So those are the two types of democracy, direct and indirect democracy. I think we have discussed about the concept of democracy and the origin of democracy. We have seen the principles of democracy, but we have also seen types of democracy. Up to this time, I think I need to provide you with an exercise which you have to attend, and probably when we meet in the next session, we'll start by looking at the level to which that exercise will have been attended. Exercise. Question number 1. Differentiate between direct and indirect democracy. And question number 2, using various indicators of democracy, justify the statement that Tanzania is a democratic state. Thank you very much for listening. I'm Mwalimu Maxon Wilson Binomtons. I hope to meet you soon in the next session. Goodbye.